What is the number one way that car dealers rip you off? That's what we're going to find out. Welcome to Car Help Corner, where we help you, the consumer, master the process of car buying and car ownership. Now, as many of you know, as a consumer advocate and a consultant, I negotiate tons of car deals for consumers. And for this video, I'm going to share 3 of the worst deals I saw in 2025 that were so bad, I really could not believe that a dealer would attempt this. Or then again, maybe I can, because after all, the number one way that car dealerships rip you off is by price gouging you and taking advantage of your vulnerability. And if you don't want that to happen to you, make sure to watch this video. So let's get right into the absolute worst car deals, starting with the first one, which is a purchase agreement to purchase a new 2026 Kia Carnival. So here we have the quote or purchase agreement for the Carnival. Now on the left side, we have our payment options, and on the right side, we have the most important part of any dealer quote, which is the price breakdown. So let's take a look at this. Here we have a sale price of $54,995. That's the vehicle's MSRP. And then below that, we have our dealer fees. And this is where the problem lies. If we break down the dealer fees, we can see that this particular Kia dealership is charging a $5,000 market adjustment price. That's a full profit markup on the MSRP of $5,000. And just below that, they have what they call an Alberta climate package for $2,995, which of course tells you that this dealership is located in Alberta. And below that, we have an admin fee of $5.99, also known as a dock fee. And then we have our small levies and a color charge, which is perfectly fine. The problem with this quote is the market adjustment and Alberta climate package, which together are $8,000. That's $8,000 in unnecessary dealer fees and markup on the price of this vehicle. And if the consumer were to have signed this deal, they would have been wildly overpaying and absolutely have been price gouged by this dealership. So if you are purchasing a new vehicle from a dealership, you have to look at the price breakdown and get a proper quote so you know what the dealership is charging you. And if you see any kind of unnecessary dealer fees, any form of a markup, or any kind of protection packages or products that you did not ask for, you have to make sure that the dealership removes them from the price. Now, this type of practice is typically more common on vehicles that have very limited supply or sometimes a long waiting period to get one, which is the case with the Kia Carnival, at least in Canada, where it has very limited supply and you could be waiting a few months or possibly even several months in order to get one, which is why some dealerships are tempted to use these kinds of tactics, which is absolutely not right. And if you encounter it, you either have to do some hard negotiating to get the price you should be paying, which is MSRP or less, or just go shop at a different dealership. And one more thing to keep in mind, anytime you purchase a new vehicle that needs to be ordered with a long waiting period, you need to make sure that you have a copy of the purchase agreement with the price breakdown. And you have that signed so you know exactly what you're paying. And there are no surprises when that vehicle arrives and the dealership attempts to add any additional fees or charges that you were not expecting. So always make sure to get the price in writing, get a proper purchase agreement at the time you place the order. It's extremely important. Okay, now let's move on to our second example of the worst deals that I saw this past year. This deal is for a brand new Honda Civic LX, which is the base model Honda Civic. Now, again, if we look at the price quote, let's move over to the right side so we can go over the price breakdown. First, we have the MSRP, which is $27,540. Below that, we have a color charge of $300, which is fine. And then we get to our dealer fees. The first dealer fee is what's called an anti-theft tire and rim nitro fee, which is $637. $637 for absolutely nothing. Tire and rim protection, absolute joke. You're getting nothing for your money. nitrogen tire inflation, and anti-theft, which is most likely just VIN etching onto the vehicle glass. All of this an absolute waste of money. You're getting no value, and this is nothing but pure dealer profit. Below that, we have wheel locks for $99, almost $100 for wheel locks. Floor mats, all seasons, $120. That part is okay. We have some of our standard new vehicle levies, again, fine. But then we get to our extra fees. We have our undercoating rust coverage for $988. And we have no idea what kind of undercoating this is. Is it a good product? Is it a bad product that doesn't work? We have no idea. All we know is that we're overpaying, paying almost $1,000 for some kind of undercoating. And then we have our extended warranty, which the dealership is charging $3,484 for. Quite a bit of money for an extended warranty plan for a vehicle like this. So if we add up all these products, that's quite a bit. I mean, we're talking nearly just over $5,000 in products and dealer add-ons onto a vehicle that has an MSRP of only $27,540. That means that all of these products and add-ons are nearly 20% of this vehicle's MSRP, which is just outrageous. Now, sometimes it can be okay to purchase certain products if they offer real value, but you don't always have to purchase products from the dealership. For example, I do recommend rust protection, at least in locations where salt is used on the roads in the wintertime, because that will damage the car and cause the car to rust over the long term. But you don't necessarily need to get a product like that from the dealership where they're going to overcharge you. There's plenty of excellent aftermarket rust protection products, such as oil spray rust protection from companies like Crown Rust Control and others, which only cost around $160, very reasonable. They work very well, and they're nowhere near as overpriced as what the dealership is charging. Anytime you have products and add-ons which add up to anywhere from 10, 15, or in this case, close to 20% of the vehicle's MSRP, well, that just tells you that you are overpaying. And once we add in the mandatory fees and sales tax, the price of the Civic reaches nearly $40,000. $40,000 for a base model Honda Civic. If the purchaser were to have gone ahead and bought this vehicle, and let's say there was an emergency after a couple of years and they need to get rid of this car, they are definitely going to be in major negative equity if they did a long-term financing deal. So do not overpay for a vehicle, and do not pay for any kinds of products or dealer add-ons that you don't need. And that brings us to the last example of one of the worst deals that I saw from this past year, and I think this one might just be the worst one of all. So here we have a contract for a new Toyota RAV4 Hybrid LE, the base model, which should cost around just under $40,000 plus tax. This one, however, is nowhere near that price. It is much, much higher, and that's because of the ridiculous number of dealer fees and products in the contract. Let's go through them right now. At the top of the list, we have an extended warranty plan for $3,349. Moving further down, we have a doc or admin fee for $999, $1,000 just for some basic paperwork and filing the contract. Totally ridiculous. Below that, we have a Carfax fee for $66. Why does a brand new car need a Carfax fee? Completely unnecessary. Then we have our rust protection for $3,000. $3,000 for rust protection, something you can get done at another company for only $160. We have window tint for $600. We have road hazard, no idea what that is, for $3,647. We have an immobilizer for $1,800 when the vehicle already comes with an immobilizer, completely redundant and unnecessary. And then we have Clear Shield, again, who knows what that is, for $1,300. And we're not done yet. If we move further down the list, we also have gap insurance for $3,263. Add up all those products and fees, and you are well over $15,000, adding more than 25% of profit on top of the regular price of this vehicle. Imagine that. Dealership adding that much profit to a vehicle. It is absolutely disgraceful. And to make matters worse and make it even more insulting, the dealership actually had the nerve to put at the very top of the deal a discount of $500. Imagine that. The dealership is trying to make it seem that they're giving this customer some kind of a deal when they're just adding over 15 grand worth of profit on the deal. Totally disgraceful, unprofessional, and ridiculous. And one of the biggest problems of all that all three of these deals have in common is that all of the products, all of the dealer add-ons and unnecessary dealer fees that were put onto these quotes were all put there automatically by the dealership. They were not requested by the consumer, and they were all treated as mandatory fees or mandatory add-ons that the consumer had to pay for. If you want to buy the vehicle, you have to buy all the add-ons and pay all the fees that go along with it. Now, this is what's known as tied selling, because the dealership is tying the price of the vehicle to certain products and extras that you also have to pay for. And this is a totally unprofessional practice that you need to watch for anytime you're purchasing a vehicle from a dealer. And yes, depending on the type of vehicle that you're buying, if it's a high demand vehicle that has a long waiting period, limited supply, like a Toyota hybrid or a Kia Carnival, something like that, it can be very difficult to negotiate with the dealership and have some of those fees and add-ons removed, never mind trying to get a discount off the MSRP. But what this really highlights is that the industry is desperately in need of proper consumer protection. We need rules in place to protect consumers from things like this from happening in the first place. One of the things that our organization is advocating for, the Automobile Consumer Coalition, which is a nonprofit consumer advocate organization that I work with, is that we're really pushing the government to introduce provisions that will prohibit dealerships from tied selling. So they cannot force you to pay for add-ons and products that you do not want. And if you support this, it would be really helpful to have your support in this fight. Write to your regulatory authority, write to the appropriate government authority, and tell them that you support prohibiting tied selling, prohibiting price gouging at dealerships, and you want stronger consumer protection. If you live in the United States, write to the Federal Trade Commission and report any dealership that's using any kind of questionable tactics, report them right away. And if you live in Canada, it really depends on the province. Write to your provincial regulatory authority or ministry. In British Columbia, the regulatory authority is VSA. In Alberta, it's OMVIC. And here in Ontario, it is OMVIC. Write to them and tell them that you want to see an end to dealership price gouging, tied selling, and you support stronger consumer protection. And write to the ministry as well, because after all, we all need to do our part in this fight. If we want to see a stronger, better, more professional, and a more ethical auto industry where consumers are protected, it's going to take the support from all of us. And if you need any form of car buying advice, feedback on a deal, or any kind of negotiation advice on a deal, you can always sign up for our service at Car Help Canada. And if you live in Ontario, we can even negotiate the deal for you and recommend a dealership that you can buy from. So take a look at our website. And if you found this information and video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, if you do live in Ontario, make sure to take a look at OMVIC, which is the vehicle sales regulator that's responsible for administering and enforcing the rules that dealerships must follow. And again, make sure to write to them if you want to see stronger consumer protection. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.